I have reviewed quite a few flashlights from the company Wuben over the last few years, and with just a couple of exceptions, I consider them some of the most functional and innovative flashlights on the market today. One of my personal favorites is the X2. So when Wuben offered to send out the X2 Pro, I jumped on it. If you're interested in hearing why, keep watching. Before we begin, I want to thank Wuben for sending out the X2 Pro so that I could share it with you. In fact, Wuben sent out two versions of the X2 Pro, one in RGB and the other with a UV light. So what I thought we'd do was go down to the tabletop where I'll go through the key features, the physical and performance specifications for these two lights, and the modes of operation. Of course, we'll get outside and do some demonstrations. Now, just before we take a closer look at the lights themselves, let me share with you what they came with. So this is the box that the lights arrived in. Actually, they arrived in their own separate boxes, of course. The only difference between the boxes and their contents is that one is marked the RGB version and the other would be marked the UV version. So inside of the box, kind of a complex assembly for the box, are a couple of things. As you might expect, USB Type-C charging cable, lanyard if you're so inclined to use one. This is a small attachment for the flashlight that allows the light to be attached to a helmet mount, something I don't see happening for very many people, but it is there if you want to use it that way. And of course, a manual with warranty information, which, by the way, is for full 5 years. Let me just put all of that out of the way. Now, Wuben did send two other things that I can share with you. These are purchasable as options. One is a red silicone diffuser cap you put on the end of the light. I'll show you how that operates in a minute. And the other thing I'm going to see is quite a bit more useful, or something at least I'll use more often. And it is a removable tail cap switch, which allows me to operate the flashlight for whatever lumen setting that I have it set at by pressing the tail cap, of course. So we'll just put those out of the way and I'll bring them back in a few moments' time. Let's bring the two lights in. So we're going to go through the key features of the lights. Some of these are for what's in common between the two, and a couple of them are for what's different between the two. So both of which have a main light on top where it will put out of a maximum of 1,500 lumens at a 205 meter range. The main lights are comprised of 4 LEDs. One of which is quite deep, so that would be your spotlight, and the rest of them comprise what would be your floodlight. Now, it operates in a unique way. The lights will fade between the different lights, or the lighting will go up and down between the different LEDs to give you a combination of pure spot, mix of spot and flood, and pure flood. You'll see when I get to that in the demonstration in a few moments' time. Now, both of these lights have side lights on the side as well. Now, the side light, each of them have white lights with a maximum of 400 lumens, one of which will have RGB as a secondary LED, and the other will have a UV light as a secondary LED, and I'll get to that in a moment. Both of these side lights are adjustable tilt to about 20 degrees. And, you'll be able to see in a minute why that's quite a unique feature as we go down through. A very unique feature and very welcome on both of these lights is on the side. I think it'll show up better on this one. There is a slide switch right here that allows you to lock the light out completely. So no unintentional discharge while it's in the lock position. Slide it to the middle position, and that operates the side light. Slide it to the forward position, and you can operate the primary light or the main light. That's quite a unique feature as well. While I'm holding it here, you'll also be able to see this wheel switch. One, it is a button that you'll press in to turn the lights on and off, as well as adjust the lumen settings. And the other, you rotate the wheel, and that will allow the front lights, the main lights, to shift between full focus for flood or full focus for spotlight through a more dispersed focus for a floodlight. Again, I'll show you that in a minute. Now, a couple of other unique features for these lights is that they do both have magnetic tail caps that will support their own weight quite well, so that's always good to have. It's starting to shape up as a very good functional light for maybe just work around the house, work on your vehicle, or just about anywhere you need to direct a light, especially using that side light. I think you'll see that as we go along as well. Here's something that a lot of people have commented on in the past, and myself as well, is the fact that most of the lights like this design from Wuben cannot be, or the batteries cannot be accessed. Well, they have made sure that you can access these batteries, and they've gone a step further. First off, there's a little lock button right down here at the base. When you press the lever, the battery case opens up, and inside you're going to find two, not one, but two 14500 batteries with 920 milliamp hour rating. So that in itself is pretty good. But here's the really cool thing. You can shift in two AA batteries and they'll function just the same as it would with the two 14500s. Not only that, you can drop down to one. So if all you have is one AA battery, or it could be a nickel metal hydride battery, then you're still going to be able to operate the light. I'll demonstrate those in a few minutes' time. All right, we're going to go through the specifications for the X2 Pro, and I think this time I'll pick on the black version. And I should point out that both the RGB and the UV side light versions are available in either black or white, so it's up to you which one you want. Now, the other thing I'll point out that I failed to do in a moment ago is that both of these lights come with an installed, quite a heavy-duty belt clip or pocket clip on them. It is removable if you don't like it, and removing that will allow this to be attached to things like a bike mount as well. So that's another option you can get as a bike mount, that if you want to use it that way. All right, now let's go through the specifications. So the weight to start with, 4.8 ounces with an overall length of 3.58 inches and a width across here of 1.65 and a thickness front to back of 1.01 inches. They are IP68 waterproof, which is to say that they can remain submerged under 2 meters of water for 2 hours without any water getting in, and they have a 1 meter impact rating. All right, I'm quickly going to go over the performance specifications for the lights, and this is, again, common to both of them, and we'll start with the primary light or the main light on top. So when it is on turbo, it will give out 1,500 lumens. That'll only last for a minute, and then the heat protection circuitry will drop it down to 500 lumens, which will last for another 1.5 hours. Now, it has a high lumen setting of 400, which will last 2 hours, medium of 150 lumens, lasting 6 hours, and low, 15 lumens, lasting 90 hours. Now, when it comes to the side lights, first off, the white light that is an infinity light, in other words, you roll the wheel and you go from all the way down to all the way up to the highest, will range between 5 lumens at its lowest, lasting 130 hours, up to 400 lumens at its highest, lasting for 4 hours. Now, the RGB on this one, and this is the RGB version that I have, they have a 10 lumen setting, which will last for 36 hours. And they have an RGB flash. I'll demonstrate, of course, also at 10 lumens, but that will last 100 hours. Now, when it comes to the UV light, I am going to show you and try to demonstrate this. This was a little difficult in my testing to actually figure out how I was going to show it to you, but I think I can do that. Same white light settings as the one with the RGB. However, the UV is a little bit different. It runs at 365 nanometers and a 1 watt output, and that will last 6 hours. So if you're into UV lights and you know the reasons for having them, that's the ratings for that. Now, as far as the operation goes, I'm going to use the white version of the light this time to show you that, and maybe I'll switch over to the black version when it comes to showing you how the side light works. But to begin with, first thing you have to do if you want to operate the primary light or the main light is ensure that the switch is moved into the forward position, and then just turn it on. That's all there is to it. Now, while it's on, you can change the lumen intensity or the lumen setting by tap or pressing and holding, and it will rotate through the lumen settings, as you can see. Now I'll turn it off. Now, if I want to alter it between flood and spotlight, turn it on. And maybe I'll turn this all the way down to the lowest lumen setting, because I think that might make it a little easier to see. I don't want to glare the camera out. But now what I'll do is rotate the little rotary switch right here, and what you'll see is a change in the way the LEDs themselves illuminate as it rotates. Now that means it's gone all the way to one level, and now I'll rotate it back and it will do the same thing when it flashes. In a moment, there you go. All right, so that's how you change the lighting from spotlight to floodlight and back again. And again, if you want to change the lumen settings while the light is on, is press and hold, and it will run through the different lumen settings. Now, as far as going to turbo, well, let me just take this down to low again. As far as going to turbo, it's a double tap while the light is on. So double tap will give me turbo. Right now that I've switched over to the RGB version of the X2 Pro, I'll demonstrate the operation of the side light. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that that slide switch is in the center position. That operates or allows you to operate the side light, and then just turn the light on. And once the light is on, you can adjust the lumen settings by rotating that same wheel knob, and it will run through. Now you can see that says it's down at the lowest 5 lumens, and I'll start to rotate it, and when it gets to 400 lumens, it'll flash again, and now I can rotate it back again. Now while the light is on, if I want to switch over to the RGB auxiliary light, I press and hold, and the light will switch over. Now as I rotate the rotary switch, it'll change colors, the combinations through the different mixture of red, blue, and green. And I think one light that a lot of people appreciate, I don't know how well that's going to show up on the camera, is the red light. So now I can use the red light and have that set as what I want for a side light. So if I want to preserve my night vision, use this in a tent, in a room, anywhere where I don't want to be blinded by a bright light, now I have immediate access to the red light for RGB if that's the way I want it. Now while the light is on, I can go one step further and double tap that same switch, and what we get is a beacon for whatever color it was on just a minute ago. So right now, of course, it is beacon of red. Now I'm going to turn the light off. While the light is off but had been set for RGB, I can double tap, and I'll get a combination of 2 colors. In this case, I believe it's blue, or right, it's a kind of blue or greenish blue and red. There are 3 color combinations that you can get, and to change between those color combinations while it is flashing, double tap again. It will change the color. There's blue and red. Double tap again, and you get another different color combination, red and green in this case. And then, of course, you can turn it off. All right, one last demonstration, this time with the UV version. I want to illuminate the UV light on this version of the X2 Pro so that I can show you what it looks like. A bit of a challenge showing you how UV works because, well, its application, at least in my mind, is kind of limited. It is useful for forensic use, for identifying forged banknotes and bodily fluids and a few other things. But one thing that it does is it will fluoresce or illuminate certain things, one of which is white paper. So I can show you doing that. So I've turned off 2 of the direct lights down here. I have shifted it onto side light version. I've shifted over to the auxiliary LED. So now when I turn it on, it is in UV mode, and really all it's showing is that it is fluorescing. That's what the term, fluorescing or illuminating the white paper, and you can see the UV light. That's about the best way I can demonstrate it. I wanted to demonstrate the feature where you can use the 2 AA batteries in replace of the 2 14500 batteries that came with the flashlight itself. So to do that, I first have to move the switch into the unlock position, pop open the bottom, take the 2 14500s out, insert the 2 AA batteries, and turn the light on. All right, that's great. Turn the light off. Let's take one of the 2 batteries out, close it back up again, and it still works. And I think that's quite a great feature for this light. Wuben has listened, and they have given people the option of using replaceable batteries, AA batteries, rather than have to stay with the lithium-ion batteries that they provide. Now, let's bring the other light back into the picture, and I'll first off show you how the diffuser works on it. First, we have to make sure we're in forward mode. Yep. Silicone diffuser just goes on nicely. Yeah, this immediately gives me a red light. Now, I'd probably turn it down. Let's just do that. There, I've turned it down. So it's not so bright in the room. It gives me enough light to operate by. And I'm thinking I could probably use this for traffic control or at least signaling to somebody that I'm there with that light on. So that's a kind of a nice feature. We'll take that off. Now we're going to install the tail cap switch, because this is something I quite like as well. So once again, make sure that the battery case door is in the unlock position. pop it open. And here there are rails built into the end of the battery door, and this just slides on and close it up. Lock the backing, the case, and now we're ready to operate using the tail cap switch. I think that's a great feature. I actually quite like that on this light. Now, the last thing I thought I'd do before we get outside and do some demonstrations is compare the new X2 Pro with the original X2. The X2 being one of my favorite lights from Wuben. It's the one that actually resides on my nightstand because it's easy to find, easy to operate, and yeah, I just like using it a lot. So on the surface, the lights have a lot of similarity in the construction of their bodies. The aesthetic is very much the same. Obviously, there's a few major differences right off of the top that you can note, whereas the X2 has the lever switch here. The X2 Pro, its operating switches are on the side, and it has the side light, a big improvement there. Other than that, you can see that there's not a lot of difference, the X2 Pro being a little taller, the X2 being a little bit wider, but look how similar they are in so many ways, right? There's not a lot of differences. I would say that the X2 Pro is a worthy upgrade to the X2. Having said that, I'm still liking the X2 and I'll still continue to use it. All right, let's get outside. Doing some nighttime demonstrations for the Wuben X2 Pro. What makes this a little bit challenging is that basically it moves from flood to spotlight, so we're in full flood right now. Narrows in into spotlight. That's pretty good there. That's in full spotlight. Not as bright in terms of lighting up the area, but still a good light for the area that it does light up. There we go. Pump it up to turbo. That makes all the difference in the world. A few closing thoughts for the X2 Pro from Wuben. Regardless if you get it in the UV version or the RGB light version, both of which are highly functional, very, very innovative lights with a lot of features, not the least of which is the fact that it has a primary and a side light and a magnetic tail cap. But probably most important to me and many other people is the fact that not only can you access the two rechargeable lithium-ion batteries, you can replace them with AA batteries, and in fact use just one, as I demonstrated. Both lights have significant amount of light output, regardless of what lumen setting, using it in either flood or spotlight. They're both good lights for outside and inside use. Now, the other features, being able to use the diffuser on it, that's a great plus. Being able to use the tail cap thumb switch is a real plus in my mind. I think I'm probably going to leave that on one of these two lights and use it. If you were to ask me which of the two lights I prefer for my own personal use, it'd be the one with the RGB. I honestly don't know how often I'm going to be using the UV light or would find uses for it, but the RGB, that probably would have more uses. Even then, it'd be mostly just the red light that I would use. However, there may be occasions when I want to use the flashing, changing color lights, such as maybe in an emergency on the side of the road. Using this light with its magnetic tail base attached to the side of the car, I would be able to use it as a warning light. Same thing on a bicycle, same thing even walking. I'll be able to use that for a light that lets other people know that I'm there primarily. Okay. Those are my thoughts on the Wuben X2 Pro. I'll be putting all the specifications and the links to where you can take another look at it in the video description, of course, but I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts. What are your thoughts on the innovative features that go along with the X2 Pro? If you have any comments or questions, put it all in the comments section. But until next time, get out and explore and take that path less traveled, because it will make all the difference. Bye for now.